What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I've got a great video for the individuals out there who are looking to buy a property but maybe don't know exactly what they're looking for. Meaning, if they're going to do a open house and go there and maybe, they don't know if they're looking at the kitchen or the bathroom, or even if they bought a house, what to renovate first, to get the most money out of it appreciation wise, but also rental wise too. So today we're going to go through the do's and the don'ts, what to look for, what not to look for in a property that you're going to purchase, or maybe you already have purchased. So let's get right into it. So I would say starting off, and we can categorize this. I'll do this at the end if I remember, but we can categorize this into like the rental appreciation, but also the overall appreciation of the house. They go hand in hand, but when I say like rental appreciation, meaning that's easy to rent and you get quality tenants out of it, like these are the things to do. So number one, I would say washer and dryer. So this is, pretty huge. It is expensive to put one of these in, whether you're going to do it yourself or hire someone out. But everyone loves and everyone asks, is there a washer and dryer in the unit? In the unit is best, in the property is second best, but you don't want to have your tenants going out to do laundry. It doesn't look good, and also this adds a good amount of rental value to it. Next, I would say the kitchens and bathrooms. So this is probably obvious, but this is going to drive a lot of the overall appreciation of the property, but also the appeal to renters. So we can break this down into two different groups as well, and I'll go a little more detail. So like kitchens, you want the granite countertops and a nice looking backsplash. Good cabinets. And then also, in this dues here, flooring. So flooring, lighting, those are other, two major value add also for the rental and also for when you're going to sell the property or maybe refinance the property. But getting back to the kitchens and bathrooms, so you have countertops, backsplash, cabinets, appliances. So that's going to be huge as well. Make sure all of your appliances are either matching, or if they're a bit older, they're still matching but in really good condition, because you don't want mismatching appliances, or you want everything to come together: your countertops, your backsplash, your cabinets, your appliances, the flooring, and it just makes it that much more appealing. And then also to when you're going to sell it, it makes it more appealing to someone that's going to own or occupy, or maybe rent it out, because they know it's going to be easily rented out because of how everything flows. Same goes with the bathroom too. So like tile shower, nice, flooring we have in there already. This is again throughout the whole entire unit. I would say, mirror and vanity. The other thing too I'd put on here is storage space. So that's pretty crucial. I mean, if you have like a really small vanity in a small bathroom, it's going to be hard to do it. But if you can add a extra shelf for storage space, that's going to be huge. And you'll see at the end that all these come together to add the total value and the rental appeal as well. But I'm breaking it down into like the really details, so you guys know, exactly what I'm talking about, and then how to perform something like this when you go out and do it yourself. So call it storage. And then also too, let's add a dishwasher here in the kitchen. That's pretty big. If you can, microwave any, I guess that goes back to the appliances here, but the microwave, of course you want a stove and oven in there. Another thing that we can add to the general list would be painting. So this is where we see if you have a painted unit, fully painted, that is going to last a long time if you have decent tenants in there. Also, again, rental appeal. Everyone likes to come into a fresh painted unit. It smells good, it looks amazing, and that's crucial, I would say, for renting it out quicker. Another thing too, if you're going to do exterior painting, that's not a problem. Just make sure that it's not the whole house. So exterior painting, that's actually going to be one of our don'ts. You do not want to buy something with a full exterior painting, because that is pretty expensive. We're getting actually one of our properties painted on the exterior, and we knew we were going to have to do an exterior painting on that property because it was just it's an old lead paint. It was chipping off, and we got the property for a price that was low enough where if we had to do the exterior painting, that we'd also, make it back when we sell, and then some profit too. But so if you're going to do something like this, and I guess this goes for all the don'ts, make sure you're getting the property at a solid discount. But if you're just getting started, these are tasks that it might be too heavy of a lift, and you want to kind of stick to these things: the interior. Make sure you buy something that exterior looks good, and you don't have to do much too. But yeah, so exterior painting, we'll just preface this with, or we'll just put it like small exterior painting on the outside. Don't want to go too crazy there. Another thing you would want to, you can do would be the curb appeal. So if you have, lighting and landscaping. So this is going to be huge for the resale part of it. If it looks good to the eyes and you have all of this, taken care of on the outside, but then you have all this on the inside, that's going to be great for when you list the property, or when the appraiser comes in and looks at the property. He'll hopefully pick better comps that look like yours versus ones that, are run down and don't have good landscaping and, exterior finishes and lighting and all of that. So you don't have to go too crazy though. Tenants also like to have, when they're coming in at night, lighting. So if the common, walkway from the garage or from the street to the house is lit up, that's great as well. Small things that the tenants take notice of that will keep them there longer. Because again, the lower turnover you have, the more money that's going to be in your pocket. So these will all help with the lower turnover, and again, like, add value. But actually the big thing too, we'll put it at the top, is of course location. So if you don't have your property in the right location, none of this is going to matter. And you're either going to do all this work, rent it out to bad tenants that are going to trash the place, or you're going to try to sell it. Okay, so yeah, two things. They're going to trash the place, or you're not going to get the rent that you need in order to achieve a decent return. Or when you go and sell the property, it's going to come in a lot lower than you expected, because maybe you pulled one comp that you thought, that sold in 2021, and you thought you're going to be able to get that price, but now the market's cooled off a lot, or the area has turned for the worse, and you're going to end up, eating a lot of the cost, which is not ideal. So again, location is extremely important in this whole entire scenario I'm laying out. All right, so if we're still following along here, we have another one would be the heat and AC. So this is important. A lot of the homes in Buffalo, the older homes, do not have AC. So if you can put that in for reasonable cost, and it's efficient too, it's not like you say you have AC, but it never cools the place down. Tenants are going to love that. You can charge more rent for that as well. And just make sure, I would say, if you do have this, make sure you're not paying for the electrical on the AC, because that bill will be expensive in the summer. And then heat, heat's pretty obvious. Make sure you have working heat. Tenants love to see that, obviously. So forced air, I would assume is a little bit more comfortable for the tenants versus the radiant heat. But again, if you have radiant heat, don't go in and replace the radiant heat with forced air. It's just not financially. It's not going to. If it's working, if the heat's working, it's not. You're not going to see that much appreciation when you switch over from the radiant heat into forced air. So just something else you want to make sure that's up to date. If you, like I said, you add AC, then you're good to go there. Another one would be plumbing. So plumbing, and we'll do electrical. So electrical is going to be, make sure you have up-to-date switches. Maybe the whole house has on breakers instead of not the tubes. That's not ideal for the resale. I know some cities and towns are cracking down where you do need to upgrade that if you're going to sell into circuit breakers, and that's going to be a huge expense. Actually, one of the properties we're trying to close on, that 20 unit, just had all of their circuit breakers replaced. They weren't on knob and tube, but that was about $30,000 for 10 units. So actually it was more, it was about $50,000. It was $50,000 for 10 units. So another thing too, electrical, it's more on the resale where you see the value there. Same with the plumbing. As long as your plumbing is not, when you turn it on, it's not pushing out brown water or chunks of rust, whatever you want to call it. It's clean water. Tenants are not going to really complain too much about that. But on the resale, that's going to be huge. If you have an older home where it's galvanized and cast iron, and you can switch that to PVC and PEX, that's going to be huge on the resale. Again, electrical update on the resale. Again, tenants don't really look at the electrical, or they don't open up the wall and be like, oh, that's interesting. You have galvanized pipes there. Like they're not going to do that. So these are all things that are going to add value to leasing up quickly, and also at the end of the leasing, at the end of your whole period, whether you sell or refinance. The big don'ts here, and these are all going to be like, we'll call it like full. So if you're doing like a full tear off roof, that's not ideal. You want to stay away from that. That's going to cost at least $30,000 for a decent size roof, for the average roof. And we actually had to go through 3 of these this past year, spent almost $100,000 on those. So if you can stay away from that, if the roof's bad, make sure it's not a full tear off, meaning that the sub layer is some like plywood or the particle board, and not cedar shake, because if it's the cedar shake sub layer, then that has to be torn off. So ideally you want to just put shingles over the existing shingles that are there now, and that would be a lot cheaper. Next would be anything structural. Do not want to get into any foundation issues or beams or joists in the basement, trying to reinforce those, or if it's cracked, falling apart. Like, you don't, just stay away from that, because it's going to, from my experience, it's going to lead into a big cost and inconvenience on your part, most likely a delay just in renting it out until you get that figured out. And then also, you don't know how long that's going to last too. I mean, if it's something that's settling and you try to replace a portion of the foundation, what's to say that the portion that you didn't replace right next to it is not going to go a year later? So, because it's most likely something underneath in the soil that's causing it to settle. So stay away from anything structural. Also, for my first time, I wouldn't invest in anything that's has water damage / fire. So stay away from that. Again, we've seen some homes that had a fire damage and someone tried to flip them, and they did not replace any of the joists. They were still charred, and some were actually burnt, where you could see damage to them, and they just kind of like sistered them, which may have worked, but the floors were still extremely uneven in that unit. And I just didn't, and there's like 8 different posts on top of all the original posts that were there in the basement that were there supporting it. So it's just going to be tough to sell. The tenants might not care, but I wouldn't spend the time on any of these, especially because here, like, this whole premise is that we're doing value adds to multifamily rentals. We're not here to fix and flip. We're here to hold cash flow, refinance, and maybe sell after the 5 to 7 year hold period. So again, get in, add value, refinance, and then hold. That's kind of our structure here. So another thing too, I would stay away from would be driveway work. So anything that's revolves paving the driveway or putting new concrete in, I'd stay away from that. It's very expensive. May not be time consuming because you can just hire a contractor for that. So the driveway with concrete is probably going to be $30,000 if it's a normal driveway. If it's just a sidewalk, that's actually something we could put here, like replacing the sidewalk or steps. We had to do that. That's a simple weekend job if you know how to pour concrete. And also, we'll just do like a patio and then porches as well. That adds good value, and they're appealing to the outside of the structure and also to the tenants too. So, not doing a full driveway replacement. Also, I would stay away from anything that I guess any like infestation of people or animals, insects. Like, don't get into anything like that. When I say people, I mean squatters. Our first property that we bought had a squatter in it. We weren't able to go in and take a look at the property before closing, and that would have showed us some huge signs that we shouldn't have bought the property, meaning structural defects, and then also the condition. And then also too, she was a hoarder. So we had a huge surprise of moving 25 tons of garbage from that house, and that was just a big waste of time. So stay away from that. Another thing too would be sewer and septic. So make sure that all of this is running. There's no backups. There's nothing that's going to come up in the next year or two. You can get your sewer scoped as well. It's probably $400 or $500 to do that. It might be worth it if you're spending a good amount of money on the property. Maybe you're looking at a 4-unit. That's $500,000. Probably worth it to do it because it's going to be $400 or $500 and it'll give you peace of mind. Also, anything to do with like drainage. So make sure all the downspouts are flowing properly. They're not, they're not backing up. That can be very expensive as well. Again, and it's not like you're going to replace the drains and then you can get higher rent for that, or you can, replace the septic or the sewer and be like, oh yeah, we got a new sewer line. I'm going to charge an extra $200 a month. No, the tenants don't care about that. The tenants care about what the inside looks like. This is good for the resale, but not for renting it out. So you can't charge more because you replaced the sewer, or that's flowing. Like it's supposed to flow. It's supposed to work. Again, with the tear off roof, great for resale, not good for renting out, because the roof should have worked perfectly when the tenants moved in. There's not supposed to be any leaks, and if the previous tenant had leaks, maybe that's why they moved out, or they weren't a great tenant for you. So just trying to give you compare and contrast here of what to do, what to look for, what adds value from a rental perspective, and then also kind of more of like overall appreciation here, but also huge costs. You can get a lot of appreciation out of this and doing this to the inside of your unit, but some of this is not necessarily needed for the beginner and to see good appreciation in a property. And then the last one I would say would be windows. So if you're replacing the windows on the full house, very expensive. I would probably say $15,000, $20,000 for a whole house. If you're doing windows just for 2 or 3 per unit, that's pretty sloppy, but windows, then that won't add a ton of rental value to it. But at least if you have, if it was a broken window before and now you have a window there, well, that unit can be rented out, and the tenants are going to feel better about it because they don't have a broken window in their unit. But again, stay away from replacing all the windows of the house, and that's going to be a big expense. Will add value to the sale or the refinance, but not a tremendous amount of rental value as well. Unless, and this is all subjective to myself. But if you're trying to market this fully refinished unit with new windows and new HVAC, well, that might be pretty appealing, because then the windows, they're one of the biggest heat sinks or losses of heat and coolness in the the different summer and winter in the different seasons. And if you can compare those two, maybe someone sees all the new vinyl windows, AC, well, maybe that heat bill is going to be less in the winter and the AC bill is going to be less in the summer. So that could be appealing, but that's a significant amount of money. You're talking about maybe adding AC if it didn't have it, or replacing all the windows. So again, stick to this versus doing all of this when you're just starting off. So a few things I'd like to point out. So you do have probably 2 to 3 times you're going to go into this property before you buy it. And that's when you're going to make these decisions on, okay, can I do the plumbing and the lighting and the flooring, and everything else is okay, just needs to freshen up in the kitchen and the bathroom, and I can add the washer and dryer maybe a year down the road. So if you do, when you do all of that, that's going to be, if you go for an open house, or if you have an agent and you schedule a few appointments with them, you're going to have to make all these decisions when you go through those, 2 to 3 appointments. I think that's abbreviation. And you're going to have to make those decisions. Either take that back to your lender and kind of discuss the business plan with them, or if it's just yourself and you're going conventional, you won't need to discuss that. But I'm just trying to, point out, this is how the process would work. You go there, you look at these properties, you definitely want to make a checklist of everything you want to replace or renovate and how you're going to add value, and then make a decision on, okay, if I do all of this work to the unit, I can get this rental amount, then I can, justify this cap rate or this, comparable property that's sold at X amount, and that's what I'm going to try to sell mine at and rent mine out at. So you want to make sure this is all locked in before you, put in an offer or get the offer accepted. Let's say before you get the offer accepted, because when you put in an offer, you want to make sure this is locked in, and you're going to do that because this is how you're going to derive a solid offer for that property, by going through and marking off, okay, this is going to cost X, this is going to cost Y, this needs to be done, and then maybe take it off of the property value. Or if you're in a competitive market, you still might need to overpay for a property, but just make sure that you have enough margin within the purchase price plus renovations, and then when you're going to refinance and take out that money or sell the property, so at the end you're still profitable. But all right, so yeah, I think this is all I have for you guys today. If you did get value out of something like this, please like and subscribe to the channel. I like to have as much interaction as possible with you guys, so drop the comments below if you want to see anything else, want me to explain anything else, maybe about something about your situation. So I appreciate that for the guys who and girls who've reached out. Yeah, hopefully this has added value to your situation. If you do want to reach out and set up a call with me, maybe go through your specific situation in more detail, just drop that in the comments and I will reach out to you there and we can set up like a Zoom meeting and just kind of talk over your situation. But with that, that's all I have. So take care and we'll talk soon.